Welcome back to the pregame show here as we get you set. Countdown to kickoff between the Spartans and the Marian University Knights, #1 team in the nation, coming to St. Louis. And we are joined as always by head coach Jason Buryanek. I'm Brad Seigan in for Harry Schrader this week. And Coach, doesn't get much more of a tall order than seeing the #1 team in the country coming in. And before we get a chance to talk about them, let's talk about last week. You know, there were some positives and negatives both for that game. And I want to start with the offense, and I think that was really the main thing. If you want to look at the story of the game, really the offense for Missouri Baptist, really the story for us. When you look at that first quarter, Missouri Baptist outscoring its opponents 21-13 this season. In that game, they didn't score in their first possession, didn't score in their second possession, and it was the first time that the Spartans were not leading after the first quarter. When did alarm bells start to sound in your head on that in terms of we may have a little bit of a problem here?
I don't know if I'd necessarily say alarm bells ever sounded. Maybe a little bit, as we got into the third quarter and we were still struggling a little bit, then it became apparent that, hey, we're going to have to try a few different things here. But we've started great, and that's been a huge boost for us. But you also got to know every game's different, and obviously, we've been putting a lot of emphasis on playing better in the second half. So you just don't know how they reacted. Were we more focused on the second half than the first half, or how the guys reacted? But I think in general, some games, it's going to take a little bit more to get your feet wet. They do a really good job on defense. They're a little bit unique in the way St. Francis plays defense, because they show you a very basic look, but it takes a little bit to get used to. One of the things they do very well is they'll play two safeties over the top, which takes away your vertical passing game. So I always, as an offensive play caller, hated playing against a cover 2 team that was very disciplined, because it does take away vertical game. You're scared to throw it, even though you probably should every now and then. And I think that has an effect on play callers and on the offense alike.
So as the game was progressing, obviously, the one thing that I've termed this week, the quarterback carousel, it kind of continued this week. And I know that's something that really frustrates you, especially as an offensive-minded guy. Jordan Orwine comes into the game after Sergio leaves. We know it was a left leg injury for Sergio. Jordan's first series, 3 and out. But after that, he really seemed to warm up. What were your thoughts on his play throughout the game? Was it him warming up to the situation because he hasn't played this year, or was it just the coverage that the St. Francis had out there?
I think it would be more, in Jordan's case, more warming up to the situation. He's worked hard, but we've had really good battle at the quarterback position. So as we've gone through training camp, as we got late into training camp, and especially the last couple of weeks, he hasn't gotten the same reps that Billy's gotten, or that Gunner or Sergio got. But this past week, he got some more reps. I think some of it was just kind of getting back into the flow of games, and something that we talked to Jordan a lot about is just managing the game. And I think early on there was some of that excitement, wants to go out there and prove to everybody what he's capable of, and he's a very good quarterback. He just has to at sometimes just kind of dial it down a little bit until he gets into the flow, and then once he gets there, then as what was apparent as the game went on, he started becoming more comfortable with things.
When he throughout the game started going to some of his old targets. I mean, we noticed that in the booth on Saturday. He was going down the sideline to Mike Beekert. He was going over the middle to KP. He's getting a chance to throw some of these guys, Dalton Barkham. Was that more him being comfortable with those guys? Was it the situation on the field and what his reads were? A little combination of both. What did you see?
Yeah, definitely a combination of both. I think the one to Beekert, he obviously has familiarity with Mike, but Mike did a great job running that vertical route. We got exactly what we wanted out of the coverage, and Jordan made a great read, just missed on the throw by a little bit. So, which was unfortunate, because if he's I think he overthrew him by maybe 5 yards. But if he hits him in stride, Mike's going to walk in for a touchdown. And I know Mike wanted that touchdown badly. But I think going to Kalen is definitely a familiar target. And it was nice to see Kalen go out there and really play at the level that we know he can. He was a beast out there. It took multiple guys to bring him down. Anytime that you can go to a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", 265 pounds with the hands that Kalen has, I would choose him a lot myself. So I think it was a lot of familiarity and trust between those two guys.
When he started going to Kalen, it was on that touchdown drive capped out by a 17-yard run by Antorio Barton. Antorio really looked good in that game. The running game really started to kind of step up a little bit. This is kind of more of what we thought Antorio was going to be able to do throughout the year. Talk a little bit about what Antorio did throughout that game. He gained a little, just under 80 yards in that game. Pretty good outing for him.
Yeah, Antorio's played at a high level all year, I thought. And one thing last year that he was doing a little bit too much was I felt he was dancing in the backfield a little too much instead of just staying downhill and getting the yards. This year he's gotten the ball, hit it downhill, has been a very tough physical runner. He's hard to bring down. And he had another great game. I think we need to be a little bit better in some of our blocking up front, but again, we have some youth up there. We're much better than I think what we have been in the past. Guys know what they're doing, and they're playing fast. It's starting to open up our run game, but Antorio has done a great job. All of our backs have. When they get the ball, they're going downhill quickly and doing a pretty good job there.
Second touchdown of the game. Isaiah King. We can't go a pregame show without talking about Isaiah King. And as you and I have agreed on several times, nothing bad comes out of Belleville. You've got experience at Belleville West. I'm a graduate of Belleville West. Him being from the wrong side of Belleville, notwithstanding, at least where he went to high school, really doing Belleville East proud. I believe that was his third straight game with over a 50-yard reception. How excited are you to have him in this lineup every game?
Oh, I mean, we're thrilled. He just continually gets better and better every week. And one of my very close friends, Chris Stevens, is the head coach at Belleville East, and we have a nice path into Belleville East and Belleville West, and there's some really, really nice players there. And Isaiah is definitely one of them, and he just continues to get better. One thing that we've talked about a lot, especially this week, is we've got to get him a few more targets. We've got to figure out a way to get him the ball in his hands a few more times. I think he was targeted 2 or 3 times, and some of that is, based on how they're playing him. Obviously, he's starting to see some double coverage, and that takes him away some. But we've got to be able to get the ball in Kalen's hands and Isaiah's hands. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he's special. He doesn't look like he's running that fast, but he is a fast runner and long strides and just can break away from a defense. So it's exciting to watch. We haven't had a playmaker like him, and we're just thrilled to have him. When he broke that touchdown, I was standing there. I think I was talking to one of the coaches, and the official walked up to me and said, "Boy, that kid is really fast," and he is. He can really run.
He is a lot of fun to watch, and as we look forward to this coming week, Marian coming in as the #1 team in the country, they've got some big wins under their belt. It really seems like no matter who they're playing, they're really playing at a high level. They beat a very good UIndy team, a big D2 opponent earlier in this year. That's a rivalry game for them.
Absolutely.
And when you look at this matchup, I think, just being fair, most people on paper are going to say, this is not an even matchup. Marian is one of the top teams in the country, all the way up probably to the high levels of Division II. Could probably beat several teams at the FCS level in Division I. So when you look at it, you've got a tough job, I know, as a coach, and these are the tough weeks. What are you telling your guys to keep them motivated, and what are you talking about with the coaching staff to really keep you guys focused on the ultimate goal of upsetting this team?
Well, I think it's easy. I mean, this is why you play the game. And our slogan this year is accept the challenge, and that's what we've talked about, is accept the challenge, whatever that means. The #1 team's coming in, defending national champions. They probably have the player of the year on their team in wide receiver Krishawn Hogan, a guy who will definitely be a repeat All-American. I think he's got a great chance of possibly getting drafted or into somebody's training camp. He's a phenomenal player. But this is, to me, why you play. And I've been very, very proud of our guys, because this, I think, a year ago was a game that they were kind of unsure of themselves. And we went in and played scared, and Marian took advantage of it. But This year, there's a totally different mindset in the coaches, in the players, that whatever happens, we're gonna take this challenge head on, and I'm super proud of them. You know, not very many teams get an opportunity to play the Marians. And so when you do, you've got to go and like what we're telling them is, hey, this is an opportunity for you to get your name out there. You know, if you're defending Krishan Hogan and you're able to shut him down, whether it's Eddie Calderon or Devontae Johnson or Carl King or Malik Kern, whoever it is that is matched up against him, hey, you know, if you shut him down and make plays, by the end of the game, people are going to know who you are. And you know, that's just kind of our mindset, is we don't have anything to lose. A year ago, Robert Morris knocked them off at their place. And, you know, we talk about they put their pants on one leg at a time just like everybody else. Now, are they talented? Yes. Is it an uphill battle? No doubt. They're very well coached. They've got a lot of talent. They're senior, very senior heavy, which we obviously aren't. But, you know, again, this to me is a measuring stick game. You know, and I think back, being a Colorado native, of the 30 and 30 where they feature Coach McCartney, and Coach McCartney went in and took over at Colorado when they weren't very good. And he said, you know, we've got to compare ourselves to Oklahoma and Nebraska. And to me, that's what we are. You know, we need to be comparing ourselves to the Marians and the St. Francis Indianas. So that's who we want to be like. You know, they're winning national titles. That's what we want to do. So I'm excited about the game. I mean, all of our coaches have put more time into watching film this week than maybe we have in the other weeks. I don't know. It's hard to say. But we're geared up. Our guys are really focused, and they're excited for the challenge, and we'll see what happens.
This is a team, and you already mentioned the Krishan Hogan. And I got a chance to look at film on him yesterday. I watched about 45 minutes of film on him from various games. And this guy is just a man. Not only can he catch the ball at any level, but he sheds tackles like I've never seen. Yeah. It takes 4 guys to bring him down a lot. What are you telling your defense in terms of tackling? Is it really an understanding of fundamentals this week in terms of tackling and where you're tackling him?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing that we're trying to preach to them, is the fundamentals. You know, we've got to tackle well. We've got to run to the ball. Can't miss tackles, because he's very good at breaking tackles and then turning that into a big gain. Krishan is obviously one of the best wide receivers, and honestly, like you, watching film on him, he is not just a great wide receiver at the NAIA level. I think he would go into a lot of even Division I programs and be very, very successful. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. He runs well. He's strong. When I turn the film on, and I mean this in the biggest compliment that it is, I see Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, I think he is a Larry Fitzgerald type player. He runs well. He runs very crisp routes. Has very good hands. I'm a big Krishan Hogan fan. I mean, I think he's great for the NAIA, and it's definitely fun to watch him. It's not always fun to go against him, but you know, our level needs players like that, and we're just, in my opinion, I consider it an honor that we get to go against one of the best that probably NAIA has ever seen. So. You know, we've got to do the little things right, and the one thing that we're really preaching to our guys is, I see guys play a little bit timid to him, and so you know we can't be afraid to challenge him every now and then, and make him earn it. And if he does, then you know we tip our hat and say, hey, that's one of the best players in the league, so or in the country. So there's nothing to lose. We got to accept the challenge and take it head on and see what happens.
Accept the challenge. It's a constant theme throughout this.
Absolutely.
When we look at the offensive and defensive lines, I'm looking through their depth chart, and it is 6'4", 6'5", 6'3". These are big guys on the line. I mean, it maybe not in weight, but in terms of their height, these are tall guys. Without giving too much away, because we know this is going to go out a little bit before game day. Yeah. Talk about strategy. You've got a quarterback who's 5'11", and seeing over these big linemen can be an issue. Where is the strategy coming in at this time?
Well, we've got to, you know, get Jordan to take what they're giving, and you know we might have to do some things where we move him a little bit out of the pocket, and you know try and get the ball in the perimeter. Obviously, the big key is going to be running the football. So, you know, I think our offensive line has done a pretty good job. That's obviously a challenge when you're playing against taller guys, and it affects Jordan and Cian. But I think if we can, our offense is predicated on getting the ball out quick, and occasionally if we have to move him around, then we'll do that as well. So, I think these offensive guys, the offensive coaching staff, they do a great job getting these guys prepared and taking advantage, and we just got to go out and execute.
Game coming up for you here in just a few minutes. The Spartans against the number 1 ranked Marian Knights, I should say. We've played the Saints 2 weeks in a row. Marian Knights and Missouri Baptist coming up right after this. Kevin Paulus and Bo Bunton will be with you on the call. We'll be back right after this on the Spartan Digital Network.